Elvis has left the building.
Sorry, I was late. I hit a lot of traffic on the way over.
Adam, we don't want to hear it.
That can't fly over here, pal.
We're live on YouTube.
All right, ready?
Ready to go.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second public hearing for the Nassau County Rent Guidelines Board. Hopefully everybody is safe. We're going to go ahead and introduce the members of the board, starting with Janetta.
Good evening, Janetta Alexander, public member.
Andy Cohen, owner's member.
Garrett Gray, public member.
Catherine Harris Marchese, tenant member.
Adam Mahoney, public member.
Marty Melconian, public member.
Robert was,
Sorry.
Robert
Oh, we
was
almost had it, Barry.
tenant member.
Barry Stein, landlord member.
My name is Mike Miller. I'm a public member. We're going to go ahead and introduce the members of DHCR, and then there's a statement that has to be read. Go ahead, please.
James Ferrara, associate attorney.
Michael Gutentag, senior attorney. Back to you, James.
In response to the governor's directive to take every effort to keep New Yorkers safe and mitigate the spread of COVID-19, and pursuant to Executive Order 202-1 and its updates, which allows for the suspension of the Open Public Meetings Law, the Nassau County Rent Guidelines Board will be conducting public hearings to determine the guideline rates of rent adjustments for housing accommodations within its jurisdiction, which are subject to the Emergency Tenant Protection Act of 1974 for leases commencing between October 1st, 2021 and September 30th, 2022 via Zoom video teleconf. Please note that all meetings will be live streamed via YouTube starting at the designated time of the meeting. Instructions for members of the public to simultaneously listen to the hearings are posted on DHCR's website for the Office of Rent Administration under the public hearings section prior to the hearings. The hearings will also later be transcribed, and the public will have the ability to view the transcript. The YouTube live stream can be viewed on the Nassau County Rent Guideline Board YouTube channel. All live meetings will be recorded and will remain on the Nassau County Rent Guideline Board YouTube channel for future viewing.
Thank you, Mr. Ferrara. Members of the board, have you had a chance to review the minutes for the last meeting?
Yes.
Motion
Yes.
for acceptance?
Yes.
Motion to
Catherine, second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. All right, we're going to go right ahead. Who do we have listed to speak today, Mr. Ferrara?
Yes, our first speaker will be Michael Chenier of the Long Beach Tenants Association.
Mr. Schneer, welcome. Please go ahead, sir.
He's muted.
I'm muting him and asking to
There we
start,
go.
start his video. Here we go.
There we go.
Perfect.
All right. My name is Michael Schneer. I am the president of the Long Beach Tenants Association. I live at 25 Franklin Boulevard in Long Beach, and I've been attending meetings of the Nassau County Rent Guidelines Board since the 90s. So pretty familiar with the process here. As I've stated in previous testimonies, one of the biggest factors that has to be considered is the reduction of the number of rent stabilized units that exist in Nassau County. According to numbers that I've been able to obtain from DHCR, in 2001, there were just under 12,000 ETPA units in Nassau County. By 2017, that number decreases to 7,930. And the latest statistics I have are from 2019, and that number's down to 7,265, which is almost a 40% reduction in the housing stock of rent stabilized units over an 18-year period. The apartments that do continue to be ETPA regulated, largely those, a majority of those apartments have regulated rents, quote unquote, regulated rents that are above what would be considered market value. I'm talking regulated rents of over $2,000 a month. I'm not going to deny that there are apartments that exist also that are below market rate, but the fact is that the majority of them, even though they're considered rent regulated, are well above market rate. To put a rent increase on those apartments would already be a hardship for people that are already struggling to pay their rent, especially in the current situation that we're all in, with people out of work and the impact that COVID has had in the past year. So I would ask that at minimum, there would be no rent increase for the coming year. I know that a lot of people that are living in rent stabilized apartments are on fixed income. They're living on Social Security. And I've had some of these tenants show me what they're making on Social Security, and their Social Security check doesn't even cover their monthly rent. In past years, you know, if I go back to the early years of the 2000s, when the rent laws favored the landlords, at that point in time, I remember testifying and asking the board, and it was, you know, there was a different board makeup at that time, but I remember asking the board to take into consideration that that the laws were very much against the tenants. And we were told by the people who were on the board at that time that was a matter to take up with our legislators and not the board. And at that point in time, we were hit with rent increases in 2003 of 5% for a 1-year lease and 8% for a 2-year lease. 2004, 4.25% for a 1-year lease and 6.25% for a 2-year lease. 2005, 5.25% for a 1-year lease, 7.25% for a 2-year lease. So I am hoping that, considering the current climate, the reduction in ETPA units, and the fact that tenants are struggling tremendously, that at the very least, this board not consider any rent increase at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Schneer.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Sure.
So we just heard about 2003, 4, and 5 with these increases. I'm sure Mr. Schneer could tell us how much the expenses went up those years.
I do not know.
Really? Okay. Well, I remember at least one of those years, the expenses were up over 7%. I don't have it in front of me, but I'm pretty sure about that. And I believe those other years, the expenses were up similar to the rent increases.
It should also be noted at that time that the landlords were able to get a 20% vacancy allowance anytime an apartment became vacant.
And that was the law.
Yes.
You know, it always can't be against the landlords. You want the landlords to subsidize everything. You go buy gas, $3 a gallon for regular gas. Well, where's the outrage? You buy milk. I don't know how much milk costs, but you know, it's sooner or later it's going to bust because the landlords won't be able to fix their buildings. They won't give the services that the tenants are used to, and that's what we're going to be facing. So, you know.
I just have one other, if I might. Are we really seriously talking about something that occurred 15 to 20 years ago? Am I missing something? You said 202, 203, 2005.
I just was considering the fact that there was in last year's hearings, there were talks from the landlord that the board should take into account that the rent laws are against the.
I'm just saying it should, you might want to consider something a little bit more timely, more present. Also, I agree with my counterpart, Andy, that it almost doesn't make any sense to make any comment on the income increases if you don't have any correspondence on the expenses. But I think Andy made the point. I just was, 2005. I mean, without making, sort of a sense of humor, I had a lot more hair 15 years ago. Things change, and they've changed a lot, and not necessarily in the landlord's favor the past few years. So I just want to make that point.
While the laws were in the landlord's favor, the landlords deregulated a lot of apartments. And in most of the buildings that have ETPA apartments, they now have the advantage of having those apartments switched over to free market rents.
Well, but I just wanted to say one other point. When to mention the term free market, where your income is controlled, but your expenses are not, sort of not a balanced approach. Don't you agree?
How do you figure that your income is controlled and your expenses are not? If, for example, in my building with 126 apartments, only 37 continue to be ETPA regulated, which means over between 60 and 70% of the apartments in my building, those the income is not.
I just asked the question that it's hard to mention anything a free market when you control the income. And for example, the past 2 years, there's been no increase in income. And yet the expenses have increased, taxes have gone up. We heard last week, Long Beach taxes. You live in Long Beach, your water has gone up, your taxes are going up. Certainly the supplies and the materials have gone up and will be going up more. So all we're asking for is a balance to the particular board. That's all.
The Long Beach budget wasn't passed yet. That's a tentative budget. And the school taxes have gone down quite a bit this year due to extra money coming in from the state.
All right, thank you, gentlemen, lady. Any other comments? Mr. Sneer, thank you so much. Next speaker, please.
Yes. I'm just
Yes. Go ahead, Michael.
removing the pins. Give me 1 second. Thank you again.
Do we have Mr. Stephen Paddock?
Yes. Just promoted him. Give me 1 second. Mr. Paddock?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I just want to make sure we could see you.
Okay.
1 second. Is your video, is it allowing your video to work?
Yeah, it said I hit the button to allow it to work.
Okay. Oh, they,
If I may, I think while you were trying to connect Mr. Paddock, the notices came up on my screen, so
okay.
that might be why you're having trouble connecting him.
Let me go back to him. Thank you. Mr. Paddock?
Yep.
Okay, let's see what's going on over here. Just give me 1 second. Try to figure out what's going on with the video. Do you mind not having the video, or would you like the video on?
Whatever will get it done. You know.
Seems like the video is not working. But we could continue without video if you're okay with that.
That's fine.
All right, good evening, Mr. Paddock. Go ahead, please, sir.
Thank you. Good evening to everyone. I don't know if anybody had the chance this Sunday, if you get Newsday at all, but Newsday front page, and I'll hold it up if you can see it. It said rent relief delay.
Oh, wait, you know what? We can't see it. So let me see if I could try to work on your video.
Okay.
I want you to be able to show that if you're trying to show
It
something.
says start my video, which I did.
Let's try this. Is there something in front of your camera? It looks like your video is on, but there's something.
No, everything is clear.
Okay, interesting. Hold on one second.
What we could do, Mr. Paddock, is if you want to take a picture of it and email it to the Nassau County, I'll put it in the record, whatever you're referring to.
All right, I could do that after I'm done.
Okay.
Yeah, you could do
No,
that.
I
whenever-
don't want to hold, it's late. I don't want to hold everybody up.
Yeah, it doesn't look like we're going to be able to get your video working. So
All right, so I'll just verbally talk if that's okay.
yeah, and email us it afterwards, and we'll move forward to everybody.
That's fine. Thank you. Well, anyway, in Sunday's Newsday, the front page of Newsday, it's the whole page, rent relief delay. It says 90 million available for Long Islanders, but only 1% has been distributed. And not to go over the whole article, but in the article itself, where it states government officials and housing advocates believe many tenants have not applied for help because they are still protected by the state eviction moratorium that will be in effect until at least the end of August. That's by the governor. Now, that being said too, I mean, the landlord-tenant court, and I'll call it tenant court, prior to this pandemic was a complete disaster. Since it's been closed and they're only now starting video conferences, just to get a court date, you would be in December now, if not into January of 2022. So the whole system has just fallen apart. So and that supports that government official's comment that there is no incentive for a tenant to pay simply because they can't be evicted, because he can't get the court, and there could be no justice whatsoever. The other item too, and again, I'll email it to you, is oil that heats the building is up 34.73%, ending in April. The last item, which we all know about because it's been on every news program, is that inflation has just hit 4.2%. So all these current factors clearly for pre-war buildings that are old require a tremendous amount of tender loving care, maintenance at a cost, that the costs are increasing, rents are flat. It just isn't doing it. You can't take a DeSoto and keep it running with nothing to work with to keep it going. So I think it's important that if you run a business, if anybody on this board runs their own business, they understand that in order to just have a going concern, you need the proper revenue to make to cross your T's and dot your I's and have a business that goes. That's all I'm trying to say. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Paddock. Well noted. Any comments?
I have an unrelated comment, if I could.
Go ahead, Andy.
I know we like to talk about New York City when it seems convenient, but their preliminary increases, 0 to 2 for 1 year and 1 to 3 for 2 years. We'll see what happens when they vote, but that's what's out there. They voted on this preliminary number, and then we'll see what happens when they do a final vote, but that's out there.
Any other comments? No? Okay. Our next meeting, the presentation hearing, will be Tuesday, June 22nd. It's Tuesday, June 22nd at 7:30 sharp. It will be by video conferencing, Zoom like we had tonight. And hopefully it will be, we'll have a very robust discussion.
When is the
and
vote? When is the vote? What's the
The
date?
vote is gonna be the Thursday, June 24th,
That's what, 2 days later. Okay,
2 days later.
thank you.
All right, there be no other matters. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
Motion.
Garrett Gray, seconded by
Adam.
Adam. All in favor, raise your hands. Wave. Thank you all very much for your time, your patience. Public members, those watching, please be safe. The mask mandate is no longer required for most places, but do follow your local guidelines. Be safe. Thank you all very much, and I'll see you on a month from now, June 22nd. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
everyone.